Hello fellow gamers, and welcome to the Round Table, a place where we discuss our most anticipated titles of the week on the gaming frontier. My name's Chase.
And I'm Chris.
In this episode, we will be covering a cyberpunk arena shooter brought to you by the guys behind the remake of Shadow Warrior, another remake, Hard Reset Redux. With shiny new graphics, abilities, and even weapons, fans new and old will be licking their lips in anticipation.
So for this week I'm going to be dipping into the remastered / remade section for this one with Hard Reset Redux. And I feel it's one of those games that didn't really see a lot of action the first time round. Certainly most of the people I know haven't heard of it and never mind played it. And for what it's worth, I feel this is quite a fun little title. Initially I picked this up as a bit of a distraction in between other games, but I ended up replaying it due to how much fun I ended up having. And there's nothing like a good old cyberpunk shooter to get you into the swing of things. So as I mentioned before, this title is something that not a lot of people I know have heard of and well, consequently haven't played. And for me this game was kind of crazy and action packed. It reminded me of a cyberpunk style Serious Sam, but I'll get onto that just a little bit later. At its heart, Hard Reset is a nonsensical game with a crazy storyline and lavish amounts of explosions, robots and action. Enough to say even the most hardcore action fan. And to see this come back with a new dash ability and hell, a freaking cyber katana, the eschewing chaos can only be awesome.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Awesome is probably going to be just the tip of the iceberg when you mention cyber katana as well. I mean, you've got me hooked on the remake just from that, to be honest.
It doesn't take a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. And I mean, being able to slice up a horde of robots into their little tiny mechanical bits with what essentially is an Eastern themed lightsaber can only be awesome. And to be honest, I didn't play the original, but hearing that, it's just gonna make me want to play the new remake.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately they didn't have a cyber katana in the original one, so sorry about that, but they still had the robots, so you know, 1 out of 2, it's not that bad. And I'm surprised really that you didn't play it, because I think anyway you played the Serious Sam games, and it's pretty much just that in like this cyberpunk futuristic setting. It's based in an arena shooter, and instead of like skeletal horses and dudes running at you with bombs instead of heads, you know, the enemies are just different forms of robot. They still run into you, they'll chuck grenades at you, and they're these little annoying ones that'll try and cut your shins off as well.
Yeah,
so, you know, there's plenty of variety there as well. They even have a massive array of weapons. You know, you get your standard human weapons, we'll call them, from combat shotguns, assault rifles, RPGs, and grenade launchers, like standard boring stuff. But on top of that, you get these exciting new weapons. You get electric mortars, rail guns, and smart guns, and the stuff that you see in sci-fi films and other sci-fi games. You're like, you know what? This is the kind of stuff I want when I'm taking down a robot horde. And to put its own twist on that system, each weapon has its own set of upgrades to improve it. So for example, the smart gun can get a homing rockets upgrade, or even the ability to lock on and destroy multiple enemies at once, which, trust me, definitely be needed if you're playing through this. So now I've grabbed your attention with the cyber katana, you're probably asking yourself, Chris, I get that it sounds pretty cool and there's now a cyber katana in the game, but what else is new? Well, let me tell you, this isn't just a HD remake of the game. Hard Reset Redux is on an all-new engine, the one being used for Shadow Warrior 2, and will also feature a lot of changes to the fundamental game, such as new enemy types and spawn paths, the new weapon, new moves, and some rebalanced gameplay. It looks as though the developers kind of took all the bad things that people had to say about the original and just went, you know what, we can change this, and they did.
Yeah, it sounds like a completely different game though. I mean, from the sounds of it, it looks like pretty much everything has changed about it. I mean, the fact that they're using a new engine as well, like, sort of says that, you know what, we're going to forget about Hard Reset, the original release, and we're going to roll with this remake. They essentially did what Square did with Final Fantasy XIV, to be honest.
Yeah, you know, you know what, that's not the worst comparison in the world. I wouldn't have seen that one coming though. But yeah, pretty much. I mean, when Hard Reset came about and when I was playing through it as well, I noticed there were a lot of, I want to say, issues with the game that people had. Like, difficulty was kind of all over the place. The enemy AI was kind of predictable. They were just robots and they kind of just swarmed you. I think the most frustrating thing a lot of people had with it was just the quick save system. Just, it didn't exist. It was a really rubbish checkpointing system, and you could be halfway through a level right near the end, and then you get sent all the way back to the beginning, and sometimes you wouldn't even know where you're being sent. So it's good to see, really, that in this remake they've not just given it a facelift and chucked in a fancy new weapon or two. They've kind of looked at the core of the game and gone, alright, people didn't like this, let's just make it better. You know, not a lot of remakes do that. They kind of just slap some new textures on it and go, yeah, new game.
I'm a proud soldier of the corporation. Others like me are made by the PR department. We defend the Sanctuary, a network that holds billions of digitalized personalities of human beings.
Cool. So seeing as the game's getting a shiny new coat of paint, I thought it would make sense that we talk about the aesthetic and the graphics of the game. So when this game was originally released in 2011, I felt it was a pretty good looking game, and it definitely got across this bleak, dystopian cyberpunk future aesthetic where mankind is kind of struggling to survive. It also had some pretty nifty looking explosions, so to see that brought to 2016 is gonna be a delight.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that the remake is coming to not just PC now, it's coming to PS4 and Xbox One, I believe.
Yep.
It's got to match up to all the other remasters that have been ported to the various, platforms now.
What do you mean? There's hardly any.
Come on. The fact that we've covered at least maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 in the past, 3 weeks?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
More than enough, I think. But looking at the trailers and such, like the lighting, the explosions are a bit 2011, 2010, PS3 sort of era. But the actual lighting and enemies and the textures, they look really, really good.
I'm kind of disappointed that you said they left the explosions back in 2011. Because I like the explosions. Explosions are always my favourite part, but it's good to see that the rest of it catches up. There's not a lot of this kind of shooter on the market anyway that deals with this kind of cyberpunk dystopian future. Like, Serious Sam didn't really have a crack at it. The other game that you can compare this to, Painkiller, that didn't even touch it at all. So good to see that they've thought a lot about the aesthetic and how they're bringing all that together. And that's all the time we have for Hard Reset Redux. If, like a few people I know, you hadn't heard of this, then I feel you're in for a real treat if you can find the time to pick this one up. And it's worth noting, if you're planning on getting this on the PC and you own the original Hard Reset or even Shadow Warrior, there's a massive 85% off if you buy it now on Steam. Now, there hasn't been a real good arena shooter like Serious Sam around for quite a while, so maybe it's time to jump back in and why not blow up some robots while you're at it. Hard Reset Redux is available June the 3rd on PC, PS4 and Xbox One. Alright folks, that's the end of another episode of The Round Table. And if you want to catch our next episode where we'll be discussing Dangerous Golf, you can click below for that. And if you fancy checking out last week's Round Table where we talked about Total War Warhammer and Overwatch, or if you're looking for our summary of releases for this week, you'll also find those links to the bottom of the video. And if you have any feedback for us or anything you want to say, you can find our Facebook at /TGFrontier, or if you want to condense that down into 140 characters, give us a tweet at TGFrontier. As always, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.